Just I just had some thoughts on my mind. Just want to thank everybody for like, commenting, and subscribing to my page. I have 1,700 subscribers. I need 300 more to get reach to that 2,000 mark. Okay, first things first. When I do a don't want to do a disclaimer if I talk about relationships or any type of thing concerning relationships. I am not a relationship guru. I'm just regular guy coming from a point of view from a common man's perspective. That's all I have to say. All right. I've been noticing a lot of stuff that's going on with this, the stupid gender wars. The gender wars is so retarded where it's a lot of women that's, giving out unrealistic expectations, saying they want a man that's 6 feet tall, that makes six figures a year, that have a 6 inch digging stick or more, or all of that craziness. And then you got men that say they want baddies that's that has a perfect body and that has a cute face. And here's my thing: the gender wars is so retarded, and I'm just gonna say this: the devil is busy. The devil is really busy because the devil is really getting into people's minds, making them believe that unrealistic expectations is the real thing. It's really not. And then I've been seeing a lot of posts of women saying they don't want a man that's broke. He got to make $100,000 a year, and and they don't. And then there you got men that say they don't want a woman that act masculine. They want a woman that's more feminine. And then you got women coming back and say, well, if I'm gonna be in touch with my femininity, I need you to pay all the bills and all of that. So let's go ahead and break this down. Ladies, I'm just gonna say this. I said it before. A man with six figures is is hard to come by because most men that's making that much money, they either married or they just don't want to deal with you on a actual personal level. The average man in America makes about 50 to maybe 60,000. No, 40 to between 40 to $60,000 a year. That's the average man in America, between 40 to 60,000. And you ladies just talking about you looking for a man that's making $100,000 or more. I'm just gonna say this: good luck, because only 10% of men in America make $100,000 a year, and then there's 1% of men that makes $1 million a year. So so let's just say this. You break this down. If you talking about you want a man that make $100,000 a year, that's 10% of men. So if you take 100 men and you put them in one room, only 10 of those guys gonna make $100,000. And then most of those guys that make $100,000 are not 6 feet tall. Only 15% of men in America are 6 feet tall. The average height of a man is 5'10". 5'9" to 5'10". That's the average height in America of American men. 6 feet is not an average height. The average height man is between 5'9" and 5'10". So so I don't know what's this realistic expectation. And then some of these guys, and then some of them is making six figures. Some of them are gay, and some of them are, and some of them are gay and short, and some of them are fat and old. So, and then here's some new stuff. The average new millionaire is 40 years old. I just found that out. 40 to 50 years old. That's the average. The average man that become a millionaire is between the ages of 40 to 50 years old. I know you see all these young millionaires, the rappers and all of that, and the NBA players. Yeah, because only 1% of those guys get to have that opportunity to be millionaires, like rappers and NBA players and NFL football players. Y'all gotta understand the sport, the athletes and the entertainers are the small percentage of millionaires in the world. It's crazy, but it's just the gender wars is so retarded to the point where some women is now telling men, if you want to be with me, you got to pay all my bills. And then I'm just gonna say this: men, stop dating in survival mode with these women. Like if you get a woman and she's struggling and she's in survival mode, quit trying to save her, please. Leave her ass there. Leave her motherfucking ass there. It don't even make no sense trying to date somebody in survival mode. Like she might be struggling. You know, you're better off building with somebody than trying to build them up. And the same here for ladies. And some ladies, and some ladies will get a man that's in survival mode also. That will date a broke man, and they trying to build them up. Now I will say this: money do cost in relationships, and I will say this: you don't have to have a gajillion dollars to have a relationship. I will say this: men, I'd say this to all men. Men, if you are going to date, you have to at least be financially stable. Financially stable don't always mean 100K a year. Depending where you live, financially stable can be $50,000. If you live in a small little country town and you making $50,000 and that's way above the average, then that's good. If you making $100,000 and you live in California, that's below your, that's actually struggling. You know, or if you live in New York and you make that much, that's struggling. But whatever number that makes you financially stable, or that brings some type of stability in your life, that's that's the real meaning of financial stability. Then you could date. But if you're broke and you're grinding and you're trying to grind to a goal, don't date at all. Don't date. 'Cause I don't think that's the biggest downfall of us men. We're trying to date outside of our means. You can't date outside of your means if you don't have no money. Like all relationships cost. Friendships cost. And you know how friendships cost too? You can have a broke ass friend and you be the one always paying for that broke ass friend to get in the club. Friendships cost. Having a girlfriend costs. Having needy family members costs. Everything costs in today's world. So it's kind of crazy how everything wrong. So and then ladies, and stop dogging the men out that don't have the quote unquote six figures, because every man ain't gonna have that six figure number. If he's actually stable and he's good with his money, cool. Then and, then try to give him a chance. But look, and it's kind of crazy how everything is. I see it's been a weird pattern with a lot of the modern women in today's world where it's a cycle where in their 20s, a lot of the modern women would date the Pookies and Ray Rays, the street niggas. They'll go like in your 20s, you start off with the street niggas. And then after you have a couple babies with the street niggas, and the Pookies and Ray Rays. Then you in your 10 years go by in your 20s, you in your 30s. Now you in your 30s, you're traumatized, you're a single mother and all of that. And now you're catering to the simps. You were looking for a simp to take in you and your kids because that street nigga you was messing with all through your 20s, you were trying to make him into a man, and you realize all he was doing bringing trauma in your life. Now you want a simp with a big ass S on his chest to come save you like Superman. And that's the cycle. And then by the time you get with the simp and then he marry you, you don't even respect him half of the time. You call him out his name, you tell him he a bitch ass nigga, and then you talk bad about him to your friends, but he's paying all the bills, but you treat him like shit, and then by the time you 45, you're divorced to the simp. Now you back in survival mode. Now you wondering how now you wonder how you gonna pay your bills when you got teenage ass kids. What you gonna do? Now you gonna bust it open to that sugar daddy. It's a bad cycle out here in these streets. So you go from a street nigga to the simp to sugar daddy. That's the three stages of men and women will date when they in this dangerous cycle of dating. You start out with that street nigga in your 20s, and by the time you in your 30s, you trying to cater to the simp. And by the time you in your older age, now you're looking for the sugar daddy. It's crazy out here. It's wild out here. And then it's getting it's like the wild wild west. I don't know this. I already know I'm rambling, but I don't care. But but the whole relationship world is retarded. Let's go back to the old days where men could actually be men and women could actually be women. And I know people gonna say, well, back in the day, men were providers. Let's break that down too. Men were providers back in the day when let's just say in the 40s, 50s, and the 60s. Back in those days, the reason why men were providers because women did not have a lot of rights. Women was being mistreated on the job. Women was getting paid way less than men compared to what women getting paid now. So so women did not work the corporate jobs like that. A lot of women were maids and all of that. And then I know one girl told me, well, my granddaddy used to take care of everything. He had a job. Yeah, because granddaddy was making $10, $15 an hour back in the 60s and the 70s, which that's equivalent to $40 an hour. Plus your mortgage was like $150 a month because housing was super cheap back then. Electricity was cheap. Groceries was super cheap. Remember, gas was maybe 25 cents a gallon back in those days. So so don't give me that bullshit that my granddaddy took care of everything. Yeah, because cost of living was cheaper. Now we in the era of inflation where the cost of living has quadrupled within the past 20 years. Let me say this. 20 years ago, gas was $1.25. 20 years ago. Gas was like $1.25 20 years ago. A gallon of milk, half a gallon of milk was like 119. And then a full gallon was like 199. Cereal used to be cheap. You can get a box of cereal for $3. Now cereal's like $6, $7. You can eat the dollar menu in McDonald's was super valuable. Mc, McDonald's don't even have the value meal anymore. Back in the day, you can get a cheeseburger, some fries, and a Coke for $3.29 in McDonald's. Them days are over. Them days are over. So before some of y'all ladies talking about, well, my granddaddy did this and my daddy, yeah, because the cost of living is cheap. It's look, if the like the average man that gotta, I'm gonna just be real. The average man that gotta take care of everything, he has to make a significant amount of money. But look, guess what? Y'all gotta learn how to chip in and build with a family. See, that's why I miss about the old days. Families actually mattered back then. And I'll give you a quick story time. I remember back then, my dad had when my parents were married, I remember my dad had a good job. He had a good job, and my mom wasn't working. Yes, my dad was paying all the bills at that time, but my mom wasn't working. My dad lost his job. And this was when I was little. When my dad lost his job, my mom realized, all right, let me roll up my sleeves and get a job and help my husband out. That's a real woman. We don't have real women like that anymore. A woman that was sitting around watching me, taking care of me full time, realized I need to roll up my sleeves and help my husband out. That's what my mom did. She got off that couch and started working a job to help the bills out. There's not a lot of women like that. So it's crazy. So, but is and of course my dad wasn't. He was making great money at that time. He was making great money. This was like this was in the 90s. He was making good money. So it's but we don't have women like that. I know I know somebody that lost their job and their wife said, I don't know why you telling me that. Well, what I gotta do to help? And the guy I know, he asked his wife, can you help out with the bills at work after he lost his job? She said, I don't feel like it. That's your responsibility. That that just and that made me shake my head. That's crazy. You see, that's why the devil's busy because he hates marriage. Let's go. We don't have that family foundation. That's why our kids is all fucked up because the kids don't have a foundation in the house. They don't have two parents in the house anymore. But it is what it is. I'm done rambling. All right, like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think. It's your boy Mitch TV. I'm out.